Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Sunday Night Live on September 11th, 2022. It's not that common that we have a Sunday Night Live on September 11th. It hasn't happened very often, but when it does, I like to remember the important historical event that took place way back in 2001. I remember exactly where I was when the attack happened and the two planes hit the World Trade Center, and over the course of the day, nearly 3,000 people died as the planes hit and then the two towers collapsed. I was playing a gig with a jazz quartet in the tower in central London called Canada One, it's a banking tower. And we were playing in their restaurant, which is right at the very top, the apex of the tower. So you can imagine trying to get all of our gear in the elevators up to the top. It took about 3 goes, and it takes about 6 or 7 minutes to get up, and then 6 or 7 minutes to get down. And maybe less time, maybe about 3 or 4, but still takes plenty of time, even just using the service elevator to get up there. But I remember we set up, we played our first set, and we were just on our break, and we were, contemplating going back to play our second set when whatever was on the TV screens in the restaurant was switched over to what was happening in New York, and we were told, pack up, get your gear out of here, get yourselves out of here. We are evacuating this tower, because they anticipated that if there was an attack like that going on in New York, then there would be a similar one in London. And boy, I don't think I have ever packed down an entire band's worth of gear, plus my own gear, my own rig, faster. And we just almost literally threw everything into the service elevators, and we used both of them. And we got out, and we loaded up the van, and we got the hell out of there. And I went home and watched the rest of it unfold on TV. I have family in New York, and so my immediate concern was to contact them and make sure that they were okay. And it took, believe me, it took a long time for me to get through. Took many calls before I was able to get through, but eventually I was able to get through. Part of it was because here, when there is an emergency like that, the emergency services and the secret services and all of that, they take over the cell phone network. You can't use it because they need all the bandwidth they can possibly get for coordination and everything else. So I had to use landlines to try and make my call to my family and my friends in New York. That was a tough day. But fortunately, everybody in my immediate family and my friends who are in New York were fine. They were safe, and they were not involved. Even though one of my friends had been up in I think the first tower just the day before, visiting a friend who worked there, and so they were just like, "Wow! If that happened the previous day, it would have been a different story." But it is what it is. And so that is why you don't see a background behind me. The background is deliberately black, because not only are we commemorating September 11th, 21 years ago, but we're also commemorating the death of Her Majesty the Queen, who died just before this weekend, on the 8th of September. And so we have a new king, King Charles III. And it's taking a lot of getting used to. I'm not particularly, as I said, if any of you have seen my Facebook page, I'm not particularly pro-royal family, but I'm not against them either. I'm fairly ambivalent, I think is the word I would describe. I'm trying to avoid politics on this show, because it's not that kind of a show. But it is a current event that we are all experiencing, so it's relevant. And it's relevant to kind of what we're going through here in the UK. And it's relevant to what you guys are going through over in the United States as well, particularly families and those of you who are directly impacted by what happened 21 years ago. So, so yes, the border around me and behind me is black, and it is meant to be like that. That is deliberate. I have deliberately done that as a mark of respect for those that lost their lives 21 years ago in New York, and also for the death of Her Majesty the Queen. So I hope you guys understand that and respect that. All right, so let's kick off the show proper, because we're about 12 minutes into it or so, because I started a little late. Sorry about that. I will run a little late to compensate. So Billy Morgan was the first in the door, as he usually is, which is awesome. And Kevin from Kevin's Guitar Stories is not far behind. And Dave at Bops New York is here as well. And Kyle Trudruziak, Ronald Figura, and Music to Motion, my dear friend Mike, is here as well. Rich, a.k.a. My Personas, is here. Lollipop Guild is here as well. Just Bob is here. And who else do we have? Don Oliver and John Lake are both here, which is fantastic. Low Ends is here. Jonny Geib is here as well, which is awesome. Thank you, Johnny, for coming and watching. Tony Stringer is here as well. And Bobby Booth is here. We can start the show now that Bobby is here. And I'm going down and seeing who else is here. Paul Morgan is here. Fantastic. Lucas Radzicka is here, which is awesome. We've got so many people here. This is great. This is absolutely awesome. Ironweed Studios is here. Dwayne is also here. Excellent. And I'm just scrolling right the way down to the bottom. And I think I've got down to the bottom. And Lucas was asking about the piece of music. Yes, that is a piece of music of mine called Softly Spoken. Which I wrote way back in like 2017, I think. Yeah, and it was mostly recorded in my old studio, so not this one, not the big nice one that was before it, but the tiny little one that was before that. And the way I recorded it was the rhythm section was recorded in the hallway, which is upright bass, and then this guy was recorded for the piano parts. And then a kick drum with brushes on snare drum, and a cymbal for doing the cymbal roll. And then the brass were all recorded 2 at a time, because that's the easiest way I could do it. So it took a while. 2 people at a time with a click track, basically. So everyone was playing with a click track, and following guide parts to make it easier so that everybody would feel like they were playing with other musicians. And it worked quite well, I think. Ronald Figura is here as well, I've just noticed. Luke Roberts is here. And Secret Squirrel is here, which is also fantastic. And Billy Morgan is saying, slap that thumb, friends, absolutely. Slap that thumb. Hit the thumb, the like button. If you are not subscribed and you are watching, you're not able to engage in the chat. I would really love it if you could, because I'm sure that you guys would love to get involved. So if you want to do that, hit the subscribe button, which is over there, and hit the little notification bell, which is next to it, and select all notifications. That way you will know about this show and all the other videos that I have got coming up. And when they go out, you'll get a notification, and that way you'll not miss a thing that I'm doing. All right, so tonight we do actually have a topic, or rather a demonstration to start with. This comes from Just Bob. This was a question that he emailed me last week, and I totally forgot all about it until I ran into it yesterday going through my emails. I was just like, oh, yes, of course, I was meant to do that. And so I promised that I would, and so I will. I decided to purchase used Adam SQ. Yeah, the Adam SQ is fantastic. I have one. It was up on here, connected to my PC. It's now over there, connected to the Mac. Simply because it just kept on sliding off this keyboard, and I thought, hey, that's not so great. So I have removed it from the PC and put it over there on the Mac, which is great. It's fantastic. The Adam SQ is an awesome little device. and its little relative, the little square guy, the original Atom, is just as awesome as well. So they make a great pair, actually, because they kind of do different things. They're similar, but they kind of do different things. All right, so let's get into this demo. And just Bob says, no worries, thank you, I figured you'd get to it. All right, so what are we doing? This demo is pretty cool. Basically, we are going to use the transpose feature to create, and the chord track, by the way. We're going to do both. I've kind of extended Bob's question a wee bit because it's pretty cool. We're going to use the transpose feature to create some vocal harmonies. And all I have to do is sing one note. It's as easy as that. And I'm going to use duplicate complete in the track inspector to make each copy. And that's how it's going to work. And then we're going to use the chord track to be able to go through all the chords. And the chord track will adjust all of the audio so that it follows the chord changes that we're going to put into it. There's a couple of caveats though, and one of those caveats is don't push the chord track too hard. You will get some digital artifacting. So don't try and make it do crazy intervals if you've only got simple 3-part harmony. Because if you do that, you will get some digital artifacting and it won't sound very good. Okay, because it will only bend a note so far before it starts to distort and corrupt. So once you bear that in mind, it's really, really useful. So let's get to it. So I'm going to sing an E, and then we're going to make a couple of copies, and we're going to build a C major triad in its second inversion. So first of all, let's get the track recorded, armed, and that's not, I'm going to sing la. I'm going to have to falsetto it today because I've been watching rugby on the telly, so I've been doing a lot of shouting because I really get into rugby. So, la. Actually, let me get my headphones on for this so I can hear it a little bit more clearly. I can get my headphones to stretch. There we go. La. There we go. I can hear that a little bit more clearly now. All right, so I am going to use the click track to give me a little bit of a count in so I make sure that I start exactly where I want to start. So let's get that on. Let's get some pre-count in there. There we go. And I'm just going to go la, like that. La. And I punched the keyboard as I did that. That's fine, we can cut that. Like that. Okay, perfect. Now we've got that. So that's all we need to do. And we can turn the click off. We don't need it anymore. And I drifted a little sharp at the end, but that's okay. It's not going to matter too terribly much. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to go duplicate track complete. And that'll give us another E. But that's okay, because we're going to transpose this down a wee bit. So we're going to open the inspector. I'm going to move this part up a bit. Hopefully you guys can all see this. And because it's an E, I want to get this down to a C. So we need to work out how many semitones we need to go down. So there's an E. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're going to do -4 in the transpose box here. All right. And then we're going to play these. Sounds a little kind of artificial, but it is kind of a quick and dirty way to kind of do this. All right, so now that we've done that and we have our C, I'm going to use duplicate track complete again. And I'm going to take these off because I don't need them anymore. Hooray, there we go. All right, so I've got another E, but that's okay. Sorry, I've got a C because this should be a C. Let me just solo this and check. Ah, I think I see what I've done here. It has not transposed it as I thought it might. Okay, let's just delete that. Remove track. Okay, I am going to right click and I am going to, what am I going to do here? I am going to render this, I think. I think that's what I need to do. Yeah, I think I'll just Control B this. Control B. So now I should be able to duplicate this one complete. Yeah, it's not doing it. I want this to be a C, not another E. Hang on, what's going on here? Okay, there's our C. There. Ah, I see what I'm doing wrong. I am copying the wrong track. I am an idiot. That's okay. So there's our C. There's our E. So what I want to do is duplicate this one. I was duplicating the wrong one. I could use Melodyne for this, but that's not the point of the demonstration. This is to show you how you can do it using the transpose function, because that was Bob's question. Can we use the transpose feature in the track inspector to create vocal harmonies just using the semitone up, semitone down transposing? So that was the point of the question. So, but yes, this could be done with Melodyne perfectly easily. And in fact, probably a heck of a lot quicker. So now we should have another C here. Let's just check that this is a C. Okay, there's the other C. Okay, so this one I'm going to move down here so I don't get myself confused. Okay, that's fine. So this one we are going to transpose via the track inspector. Now it says -4, so what I could do is I could Control V this one again. There we go. And now that's set to 0. So this one, now that it's set to 0 on the transpose, I can pitch it down again. So we want to go down to a G because we've already got an E and a C. We want to get a G. Now this might push it a little far. 3, 4, 5. So 5. Let's -5 this. And hey presto, it worked. Now, there is definitely some degradation of the audio. That is definitely true. So now what we're going to do is we're going to range select these. I'm going to duplicate these another 3 times. So we're going to go D, D, D. There we go. Now, to all intents and purposes, it looks like we've got C major going 4 times. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the chord track here to make all of these change. And I'm going to have to set all of these tracks here to follow the chord track. So let's pull this down. And we go follow chord track. And I think I want to do parallel, I think. And we'll do the same here. And I think we do the same here as well. All right. I think that is right. Okay, so in here, we're going to change this. We're going to make this one A minor. And then we'll do this. We'll make this one F. And then we'll make this one G. And we'll see if that's worked. No, it hasn't worked. So these have all been set incorrectly. So let's try narrow. Why are these not following the bloody chord track? Try universal. Why are these not following the chord track? Ah, bingo. There we go. There we go. Let's set that to universal as well. And we'll set this one to universal. That's the one I was missing. All right, so hopefully this will work now. Okay, that has not worked. Why is it not following the damn chord track? Follow is on, so why is it not following the chord track? I've asked it to. Okay, that didn't quite work as at all planned. I thought this would follow the chord track and would play an A minor chord, but it apparently has not. I don't know why that is the case. So let's turn the follow off and see if we can fix that. Maybe I need to bounce all of these. Maybe that's what I need to do. Maybe that's what I need to do with all of these. And let's try it again. Let's see if that's worked. Yes! Okay, that kind of worked. Kind of. Sort of worked. But so yes. It sort of works. It's a little bit funky. I would maybe bury these quite in the background. So it kind of works to a degree. Anyway, so I hope that worked, and I hope that kind of shows you kind of what you need to do to make it work. You've got to make sure that once you've got your notes for your 3 parts in, so you've got your C, your E, and your G to make a C major chord, and you duplicate it 3 times, you want to set it to universal in the follow chords. Then you want to make sure that each of these is bounced into one event, and then it should work. It should follow. But as you can hear there, not great. Yeah. It certainly got the C and the A minor and the G right, but it didn't know what to do with this F, which is odd to me. I don't know why it didn't just, you know, go. That would have made sense to me, but it didn't do that. It did this, and then for the F, it just kind of went, or something. And then for the G, it kind of went, it did that right. So I don't know why it didn't figure out that this was meant to be an F chord, but it is what it is, and it's not perfect. It is far from it. And as you can see, when you pitch shift a note, even if you pitch it by, you know, like a major third or down a fifth like we did here, we went from the C down to the fifth, what it does is it changes the formant, and it also changes the harmonic series of the sound itself that you have made with your voice. And when that happens, you can get some artifacting out of that, and you can actually make the fundamental tone of the note can sound a little bit iffy. And even if you analyze it with Melodyne and you look at it on Melodyne, it looks okay, but the harmonic series of that note will be off. And so it will sound to your ear like it's a little wonky. And that's because it is a little wonky. It's just that you have changed the formant. Basically, you are what the pitch and the tuning algorithm in Studio One is doing is it's changing the frequency of the note for a start, but it's also having to adjust how long that piece of audio is. So it's stretching it where it needs to, and it's compressing it also in time where it needs to, and that adjusts how it sounds. So when we were duplicating the track and then pitching them, what we found was the audio, the more it got changed, the more it started to sound darker and less clear. And then when we started duplicating it and then running it through the chord track, then it started to sound even funkier. So This is maybe not the best way to create vocal harmonies. It's quick and it's easy and it's a little bit down and dirty. So if you need to quickly throw up some vocal harmonies as guide parts for other people to sing, then this might be an option for you. But if you want to use these as your final take harmonies, I would not. I would suggest don't. Just, you know, use a guide instrument to help you pitch your harmonies and just do them as an actual track, as proper harmony parts is what I would suggest you do. So even if you don't know what the intervals are to make, you know, to go from a C to an E to a G to make a C major chord, you know, you can kind of work those out, or you can, you know, if you're more a guitar player than a keyboard player, you can play the different strings and then sing that particular note. And you can work your harmony parts out that way. And certainly I think that would be a better way to do it than doing it the way that I've just shown you here. This will garner results, but not necessarily the clearest, as you can hear. And one of them has got a massive, great big click on it. So maybe narrow gets better results than universal. Okay, well, let's try that. All right, so, I mean, it didn't change when I selected narrow. Yeah, see, the indicator that shows that you've got chord track on it went away as soon as I changed it to narrow. I don't know why, but it's gone away. Look, see? And there it's gone away there. So I changed that to narrow. That one's gone away as well. So it's now not following the chord track at all. It's not following the chord track. So narrow didn't work. I don't know why narrow didn't work, but it didn't. The one, I mean, I could try scale. Let's see if scale does anything. No, we don't get the following chord track logo or symbol at the bottom of the event. The only one that seems to work in this instance is universal. It's the only one that's actually following the chord track. Why? I don't know. I actually don't know. See, we've got the following the chord track symbol on each of the events, which is what this little symbol is. It just tells you it's following the chord track. Maybe it's a Scottish accent. Maybe it is. Maybe it's just the way I'm going la is the problem. Mix all three vocals to a single audio track, then try the tuner on that single track. I could do that. But the tuner is just for tuning, is just for showing you how out of tune a guitar is. It doesn't actually change any pitch. So I'm not sure how that would work exactly. Put all three notes on a single track and merge audio and then chord track word better. Oh, you mean the chord track? Okay. All right, well, we can try that. We can bounce all of that. We can do mix down selection. If I can find it, there it is, mix down selection. There we go. So all those other events are now muted. Let's try that. It's still not sure about that F chord. It's still not sure about the F chord, which is so weird. Put it on narrow there and see what that does. No, it's not really sure what to do. But it kind of does something vaguely akin to chords and vocal harmonies. But in theory, you could make it work. But it does take, as you can see, a lot more steps, a lot more time to do it. Whereas if you use something like Melodyne, you could just copy the actual pitches and shift them in Melodyne, and it would be just a lot easier to construct harmonies doing it that way. Or the other way you could do it is just to actually learn the notes that would make those chord changes happen, and then sing the actual notes, and which would be a much more traditional way of creating harmony parts. But this was fun, and it was worth checking out. It was worth checking it out. So thank you very much, Bob, for your challenge and your question. I like that. That was good. That was fun. All right, let's see. What else are people saying here? Let's see, what else do we have? I'm looking for questions and things that you guys are saying here. All right, so Just Bob says, thank you for the demo. Shows the pros and cons of what you can do and can't do if you don't have Melodyne. Yeah, if you don't have Melodyne, you're going to find this challenging, to say the least. Because you can use the transpose feature, but the first thing you're going to have to do is make sure that the note is bang on to start with. Otherwise, when you transpose it, you're transposing something that is out of tune. When you make copies, those copies are going to be out of tune. And then when you transpose them, they are, you know, even though you're transposing by a semitone, if the note is either plus minus a little bit in terms of its actual pitch to start with, then that semitone is of that off-pitch interval. Do you understand? So it's not that it's an exact semitone from C to a B. It'll be whatever you sang as that C down a semitone. So if you were slightly sharp of your C, then when you transpose that down a semitone, it will be slightly sharp of your B. So it will be betwixt the notes, so to speak. And you'll get some interesting microtones. And the more parts you layer up, the more interesting those microtones are going to be. And you could end up with something, with accidentally falling into something like 14-tone equal temperament, or you might even accidentally end up in just intonation, which works in certain styles of music and works in certain keys. We've kind of touched on things like just intonation and other systems of equal temperament before. There are pros and cons that go with those, and there are key centers that work and key centers that don't. And that's why everything was kind of codified eventually around 12-tone equal temperament and around a major-minor system that was derived from that 12-tone equal temperament system. And therefore, everybody can play in all 12 keys. And there are no issues, because each semitone is exactly the same interval every time on every instrument. There are some instruments where you have to make small corrections. For example, on a trumpet, we're kind of drifting off topic here, but on a trumpet, there is a fourth slide. There is a fourth valve. So you have your 3 valves here, but you also have a ring kind of round about here, and that is attached to a fourth slide. And that is for correcting those intervals that are slightly off on a trumpet. Because, you know, when you're pressing the valves down, they change the fundamental pitch that you make with your lips. Because the sound goes through these 2 sets of tubes and then comes out at the end of the horn. So when you make a certain note, you need to be able to correct the intonation. There are a couple of ways you can do that. One is with that ring slide to adjust that fourth slide, or with your embouchure, or a combination of both. And that's what most trumpet players do, particularly when they're playing in certain keys. They kind of have to, because although equal temperament is a thing, there are some instruments that are better suited to it than others. So that's kind of an aside, but it kind of is derived from what we're getting from when you're using when you're changing the pitch of a note, and what happens when you do that with audio. John Lake asks, what do you tune a drum to? Well, drums depends. Timpani drums, they are pitched drums. Rototoms, those are pitched drums. They are meant to play an absolute note, a definite pitch. Drum set and the toms on a drum set are not designed to be absolute pitch, so you don't tune them to a particular note. So when I am tuning a drum set, I want there to be kind of a particular kind of sound as you go down, a particular gap between this tom and this tom and this tom and this tom, given that I used to have 4. I don't anymore. I only have 2. And I'm a left-handed drummer as well, as you can tell. So I want a particular kind of ding, 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 ding. But I'm not aiming for a specific pitch, because they're not meant to. There are some producers that would insist on having the kick drum tuned to the key center of the song that you're playing, so it's always playing the tonic. It's a nice idea, except they then go and stuff the kick drum with loads and loads of padding and pillows, so basically it only just goes and you're not going to get any pitch out of so no point. Interesting question, though. Rich says, character limited on the question above, but can you show an edit using the snap to zero crossings to remove the clicks at the end and beginning of those vocal samples? I could. Let me see. Snap to zero crossing is not something I normally do, to be honest. What I should have done before I bounced them was I should have actually crossfaded them all. That would have been smart, but I didn't do that. Let's see. So what I really should do is, like, I should fade those, for example. And then I should fade those as well. And so on. And that would have some effect. Certainly on this track it might. Except it's muted because we mixed it down. But if I actually do this on this mix down track, maybe that might work. So if I chop up and chop up, and then maybe crossfade, 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 and then I can just adjust these fades a little bit to soften those start and ends. Maybe I've done it a little bit drastically, but because that solo's on. That's better. That's a little bit better. That's made a bit of a difference. But yeah, that I would normally just crossfade those, to be really honest. Secret Squirrel says, I'm wondering, PreSonus might accept requests for cost-accessible MPE keyboard. I'm struggling just to spriggle due to lack of button give on Atom SQ for MPE VSTi control. Unfortunately, I am not at liberty to speak of any future developments of PreSonus products, whether be that hardware or software. So I can't divulge anything that may or may not be coming up in the future. Can't talk about it. However, what I can suggest you do is you use the contact form on the PreSonus.com page. There's a contact us button towards the bottom of the website. Hit that, use the contact form, and you can make a hardware feature request, or you can go to answers.presonus.com and you can make a feature request there, and you'll just need to see if you can find a hardware section that it would fit under. But yes, you could certainly request that we make something like that. But, you know, as, you know, these things can take time to manufacture. And so, you know, but like I said, I can't really comment any further developments. Doesn't Studio One have a preference where events are automatically faded in and out by a few milliseconds when cut split? You can have it set that way. I mean, you know, when you press X, it creates an automatic crossfade, which is what I did here. It just made an automatic crossfade. I think of about 7 or 8 milliseconds. I think is what it's set at by default, and then I just made them just a little bit wider. But yes, when you press X, when you cut something up and then you press X to make the crossfade, it automatically makes a crossfade. And it does that automatically. And it's just simple, you know, you just double click, thunk, double click, thunk, double click, thunk. And that's it. It's 2 buttons, you know. That's not really any effort, I wouldn't have thought. If it's too much effort for people, then I really do wonder, you know, where the world is going. To be really honest. If people are not prepared to make 2 moves, I am concerned. Rich says, yes, however, I figured using that tool would give an insight into using a setting specifically for editing precisely on the sample level. Yeah, you probably could. And yes, crossfading will deal with any clicks when splitting events. Absolutely it will. Yep, pressing X does it every time. And, you know, I've been using Studio One for, let me see, probably nearly 9 years. And I've only ever pressed X to crossfade. And I've never really worried about anything else. And it clears up any clicks and pops that I might have. Does that every time. All right, any other questions, folks? We got 10 minutes left. That was a really good demo. Thank you for that question, Bob. And if you want to ask a question that is something that we can demonstrate at the start of the show, then drop me an email. Go to the website down at the bottom here, www.jonnylipshamstudios.co.uk, and do what Bob did. Scroll down to the bottom of the page, fill out the contact form, and that creates an email, and that drops into my inbox. And just give me as much detail as you possibly can about what it is you want me to show, and the question that you have related to that, and I will try and answer it like I did with this for Bob. So we've got 24 people watching and 24 people who have liked this, apparently, which is awesome. That means every single person that is watching has hit the like button. You guys are great. You guys are fantastic. Thank you very, very much. So if we've got new subscribers, thank you for subscribing and welcome to the channel and welcome to the chat. If you have subscribed just now, tonight, in tonight's show, then please say hi in the chat. You only have to be subscribed, I think, for 5 minutes. And then the chat is unlocked and you can type away. So if you have subscribed for the first time tonight, please say hello. I would love to be able to read your name out from the chat and say hello back, because I think that's a really nice thing to do. So thanks for Burlap Studios acknowledging that for me. I appreciate it. Let's see what else we got. Many years scissoring. Digital audio is worse than a razor blade on a piece of tape. Like I have shown you folks before. I don't know whether this camera shot is going to do it any justice. Actually, I need to be on the big camera. There we go. I don't know how easy you can see that. Let me just turn my thumb. But I have a nice little cut that almost went all the way through my thumb. It's kind of a little diagonal, like along there. You can, if I just, not sure you guys can see it, but anyway, it was a beautiful cut where I was splicing a tape way back when I was a kid, and working in a studio that my dad worked at a lot as a session musician. And I was only maybe about 5 or 6, and they gave me this knife and they said, hey, do you want to, splice up this tape and then join the 2 bits of tape together? They showed me how to do it. And so I did it, and I was having loads of fun with it. And then I got distracted, and I was not paying attention to what I was doing with the knife, and lots and lots of blood. So much blood, I had to go to hospital. Because that knife went almost all the way through to my nail. And yeah, it was fun. I got quite badly wounded, and I thought I was going to have stitches in my thumb, which would have sucked because it would have made playing drums really hard. But I was only about 5 or 6 years old, I think. And I explained this and said, hey, if you're going to stitch this is going to be a pain in the butt for playing drums. And so they glued it. They used some kind of medical glue that way back in 1980 was kind of being trialed as a thing that you can use. And they glued it all back together. And they said, just, look after it. Don't pick at it. Just leave it alone for a few weeks, and it should all heal up nice. And it did. And there's a nice little scar there now. Music to Motion is running an after show Zoom. If you guys want to join, he has put a link in there in the chat. So it's going to go, it's going to be cool to get over there. I may well join in a few minutes because you know what? Mike's Zoom calls are fun. They are really, really good fun, and we can kind of continue the after show chat. So I'll be there for a little bit. Peter Brooks is just arrived. He says, I'm sorry I'm late. No, not a problem, dude. You can watch the replay, and we actually started the show with a really good demo, which I think you'll find really interesting. So, like I said, if you have any further questions that you've not had answered in the chat, then certainly drop me an email and we can start using these as starters for the show, because I think this worked really well, and I love doing kind of demonstrations of stuff in Studio One, especially if it's something I know about and something that I do fairly regularly. Then I'm happy to demonstrate it, because that's cool. All right, so we have got 4 minutes to go. Let's see. Rich says it's become that scene in Lethal Weapon. That's not a scar. Wait until you see this. I have plenty of other scars. Trust me, Rich. I really do. I have scars from all sorts of surgeries, from injuries that I have had, and I've had to have emergency surgery a couple of times. So I've got some pretty nasty scars from those as well. So trust me, this is nothing. This is what the Black Knight from Monty Python would call just a slight flesh wound compared to the other scars that I've got. All right, so what's going wrong with the Zoom link here? I thought Mike had put one in. So there's some confusion over which link is gonna work. Rich says, just keep your pants on. Yes, I try to keep my pants on as often as possible, especially in public. When I'm in private, that's a whole nother story. And when I'm wearing a kilt at a wedding, pants, what the heck are they for? When you wear a kilt, you didn't wear pants. Anyway. Alright, so Mike says that his link is working, and it's been tested by Billy, so it works now. So, you're a lovely guy, but you aren't no Mel Gibson. Mel Gibson's a bloody Australian, whose Scottish accent sucks. So any fans of Braveheart, it's a terrible, terrible, terrible film in so many ways. Not just because of Mel Gibson's accent, but it's terrible in far too many ways. Anyway, we've got like 4 minutes to go. Does anybody have like one last minute question? Because I'll do one. I'll do one last question. But if there's no questions, then we'll just finish right now, because we're going to be finishing like 3 minutes early at this rate. And I said I'd happily I'd happily run over a wee bit, but you guys don't seem to be up for it. Let's see. Mika said something that's just got lost in the chat. I want to try and find it. Does surgically gluing a thumb qualify for gory YouTube channel? I don't know. Certainly at the time, back in 1980, it was pretty gory. There was such a lot of blood. It was mental how much blood was coming out my thumb. Song of the week, artist. I don't know, because I don't really keep up that much with current music. Because really, if I were to have the chance to be born in any age of music and in any country, I think I would like to have been born so that I would be in my late teens, early 20s by around about 1942, 1943, and be living in New York. Because then I would have got to meet Charlie Parker and Dizzy Gillespie, and I would have met a young John Coltrane as well. And I probably would have met an awesome drummer by the name of Roy Haynes, who, by the way, is still alive and still playing gigs at the age of 97. It's insane. He's playing with musicians who are young enough to be his great-grandkids, and he's still playing gigs. He's one of the most respected drummers in the world, is Roy Haynes, and he's a terrific drummer. He's still got phenomenal chops at the age of 96, and he has, in fact, played with Charlie Parker. He was with Charlie Parker for maybe 3 or 4 years, and then he played with Coltrane, and he's played with Miles Davis. He's played with just about everybody. He is probably one of the last people alive who witnessed that era, the bebop era, and that music. The other one would be Sonny Rollins, who I think has just turned 92. So he also is a living witness to the music created in the 40s. So yes, that would be where I would want to be. It doesn't directly answer your question, to be honest. All right, Peter Brook asks, Bob's asks, why does Hummingbird fly in the air? Because it has really, really tiny wings. Who has bought out Presonus? Fender is the answer to that question. And that happened last November. We're still kind of going through kind of the processes of how all of that works out in practicalities. But yes, Fender bought Presonus in November the 1st, 2021. And yeah, it's exciting. And pretty much as far as Presonus products is concerned, and Presonus is business as usual. We just keep doing what we're doing, pretty much. And there's a lot of real exciting things coming. That's all I can say. I can't really say any more than that. But there's a lot of really exciting things coming your way from Presonus in the very near future. But I can't really say anything else. I've kind of said too much as it is. But yeah, so Fender bought Presonus. Just Bob says, is it true that bagpipes or a similar variation actually started in the Middle East and then Scotland created their own instrument from that? You're not far wrong. I'll say that. The whole idea of using a combination of breathing into the instrument and an airbag, actually, it's not quite the Middle East, although the Middle East did adopt it, but it's actually an Ottoman, so it's a Turkish idea. So it comes from the Ottoman Empire. But it did kind of spread over directly into places like Israel and, countries surrounding that area. But the instrument that we know as bagpipes that are in Scotland and Ireland in particular, and they are very different, by the way. Bagpipes in Scotland and Ireland are very different. They sound different, and they are performed slightly differently. But those kind of concepts, they kind of grew up on their own. They're with, you know, kind of without this Turkish influence. But yeah, the idea was you basically take the lung of a pig and you stick some pipes into it, and you combine blowing into a tube that has a double reed at the top and a double reed at the bottom. And then you have these finger holes on the main chanter pipe, and then you have a bunch of drone pipes, and they're all connected to this pig's lung. And then you squeeze the pig's lung. That provides a secondary input of air. Yeah, that the Celtic nations kind of developed those kind of concurrently at the same time, probably influenced by each other. And I don't think they really were aware that over in the Ottoman Empire, they were kind of toying with that kind of idea as well, with small little squeeze bags into a single pipe. So, yeah. So you're probably not far wrong, but I don't think the two are related. I could probably look that up and explore it a little bit more just to be sure. But from memory, anyway, I don't think the two are related. I think they developed independently of each other, and it was maybe just a bit of coincidence. But I can certainly look into that for you and give you a more definitive and a more direct answer. But yeah, Scottish bagpipes are fundamentally out of tune with themselves, not just out of tune in general. They are out of tune with themselves. And you either like them or you don't. Personally, if I have a choice between Aeolian pipes from Ireland and bagpipes here in Scotland, I prefer the Aeolian pipes, because they are much more fundamentally in tune and a less harsh sound, because they are a single reed instrument rather than this quadruple reed where you got two double reeds in the main chanter pipes. So there you go. And I'm not really an expert on bagpipes. I know it kind of sounds like I am, but I'm really not. Anyway, we have reached the end of the show. Thank you everybody for coming, especially all you folks that have hit the like button. I really appreciate it. You guys are awesome. If you're new and you've subscribed, thank you so much for doing so. We are now over that 4,730 kind of barrier that we've been flirting with for a bit. I would love to get us up to 5,000 subscribers. So if you could help by sharing the show and sharing the channel and sharing videos from the channel, that would help me out a lot. And then hopefully we can get some newer people in here and we can get past that 5,000 subscriber barrier. That would be awesome. That would be epic. All right. Please click that link to Music to Motion's after show Zoom call if you would like to. If you'd like to hang out there, I will be joining in just a couple of minutes. Thanks a lot, everybody, and I will see yous. Hang on, I need to queue up my music, and I've lost my music. Okay, let's just take a small pause because I have lost my music. Okay, there we go. All right, good night, everybody.